Ken Feinberg, the man administering the $20 billion BP oil spill fund, has faced criticism for not paying out claims fast enough. Well, he has an answer to those critics, an offer to victims of an option to speed up their payments if they agree not to sue BP. Ken Feinberg joins us this morning from our Boston bureau. Ken, I want to walk through some of these terms and make sure that everybody understands what's at stake here. You're offering $5,000 for individuals, $25,000 for companies. This is in addition to emergency compensation they may already have received. And if they take this option, they would be required to waive all future claims against BP. Is that all correct?
Pretty close. Pretty close. There are three options for every claimant. You can take a final payment for all prospective future damage by providing me more documentation, explaining all of the losses that you've suffered, a final payment, lump sum, but you've got to waive your right to sue anybody. Secondly, if you don't want to waive that right, or you're not certain about the future in the Gulf, you can continue to take quarterly payments, document your damage, quarterly payments into the future, don't waive any of your rights. Then there's the third option you have suggested. If you have already received an emergency payment, and 170,000 people have, any individual without any more documentation, or any company without any more documentation, just check off a box. If you're an individual, $5,000. If you're a company, $25,000, but no more lawsuits.
Ken, you know, one of the questions people are asking this morning is how you came up with those figures, $5,000 and $25,000. Did you literally pick it out of the air, or is there some rationale behind it?
Oh, there's a rationale. I looked at all of the emergency payments, and I saw that about 70% of the individuals who received emergency payments received $10,000 or less. About 70% of the companies that received emergency payments got $25,000 or less. That seemed to be a number pegged to the emergency payments that I already made. It certainly was not picked out of the air.
All right, so you say that 170,000 people have received those emergency payments so far. Only 10,000 or so, 6%, have applied for final payments, which are due. Those applications are due by August 2013. How many of those people, more importantly, do you think will sign up for this latest option you're offering?
We shall see. First of all, when you say only 10,000 people have signed up for final payments, that's since August 23rd, when we weren't even considering final payments, and yet they checked off the box, final payment. I suspect there will be a huge increase in the number of final payment requests, and that's fine. What I really want to emphasize is that one size does not fit all. There are three different options, and each claimant should consider each option and decide which option is right for that claimant.
Ken, why did you come up with this option now, and why this mechanism?
There are 170,000 claims, and there may be even more than that. I mean, I've been criticized for not getting the money out faster, and I wanted to come up with at least one option for companies and individuals that either have received compensation that they think is adequate, or they don't believe that they can document.
Ken, I have to jump in for a moment.
Damage.
I'm speaking with Ken Feinberg, the man administering the $20 billion BP oil spill fund. Ken and I each finished the third period tied at 3 goals apiece, so we had to take it to an extra frame. Ken, we were talking about the offer that you're making to people who were victims of the BP oil spill. $5,000 per individuals, $25,000 to companies. These are for people who have already received emergency payments, and only if they agree to waive their right to sue anybody else in the future. The question I have for you right now is this. A lot of people are going to be tempted by this offer because it comes so close to Christmas, when everybody is feeling the pinch. Their finances are pretty tight. Is that really fair?
I think it's very fair. It's one of three options. If I don't do something like this, then I'm open to the criticism that I'm not getting the money out fast enough to 170,000 people. Now, if there are individuals or companies that think they have a lot more damage, they're uncertain about the future, they don't want to take the risk now, there are other options available. I don't think it's right for me to simply assume that everybody out there who's received $2.5 billion is being tempted, or that one solution is right for everybody. I think there's a menu of options that everybody ought to consider.
Well, you're right. They do have options. We talked about them earlier. One is applying for quarterly payments, ongoing interim claims, as it were. How many people have applied for those? Because as you pointed out earlier, some 170,000 have received emergency relief. And if they choose not to go with this option, they're going to perhaps become part of that other group. So how many are receiving the interim payments?
Well, we haven't implemented the interim payment program yet. Everybody who got an emergency payment over the last 90 days, they didn't have to give up any right to sue. They could reapply, and now they're invited to reapply. The people who will want the interim payments, I think, are mostly individuals and companies that are uncertain about the financial future in the Gulf. And they won't want a lump sum payment or a quick payment. They'll want to wait and see, or every quarter, if they can document their damage, how the Gulf is developing, is the oil returning. They'll want to play it safe. Absolutely justifiable. One of the three options. There will be, I think, many people who will choose that option.
So, it would seem to me that the interim payment option might pose the biggest headache for you. The quick payment option, the one that you're offering now, is probably going to be the easiest on you. Is that fair to say?
I think that's absolutely right. All somebody has to do for the quick payment is check off a box. They don't have to submit any further documentation. They've already been paid an emergency payment. I'll pay them the $5,000 or the $25,000. Now, that option remains open for the next 3 years. It's not like you have to exercise it right away.
A related question for you that I want to get to is, if that is the case, if more people go for this third option, how much is that going to reduce the cost burden of legal fees on the BP fund?
Well, there are no legal fees in the BP fund. Whatever the arrangement that a claimant has with his or her lawyer, that's up to them. Now, if you're asking, will it reduce the cost of administering the fund?
Yes, that's what I meant. The cost, the fees that you charge.
Sure. If 170,000 claims get reduced by a certain amount based on quick pay, obviously the infrastructure deals with less claims. Absolutely.
Ken, I want to ask about one other cost issue, which is the free attorneys that you're now providing to claimants. This is at the request of the Mississippi Attorney General. There are also going to be people on site helping claimants with the process. Who's going to foot the bill for that, and how much is it going to cost?
Don't know how much it'll cost yet, but obviously the bill will be paid by BP. BP's paying the entire cost of this entire program. Who else? But although BP will pay the cost of the pro bono program so that any claimant can have a lawyer, BP will have absolutely no say whatsoever in any of the legal advice that's being provided by that lawyer.
All right, Ken, we thank you for joining us here on the Inside Track. That's Ken Feinberg, everybody, the man administering the $20 billion BP oil spill fund, talking to us about the newest option for claimants. You can get a quick payment provided you waive the right to all legal action in connection with the spill going forward.